Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have DeVaris Brown, founder and CEO of Meroxa, a VC-backed company enabling teams of any size and level of expertise to build real-time data pipelines in minutes, not months. DeVaris, I'm so excited to chat with you and learn about your founder journey and where you've gone and the companies you've been with as you worked at some household names. And I love to talk to founders who come from that background and how it may impact or influence their current company. But also, I was looking over your background. You're very much an advocate for skill building and development and being a leader in a lot of different spaces around education within certain industries. So obviously a wealth of things we can get into it. But before we do that, what were you doing before you started the company?
What was I doing before I started the company? Meroxa? Oh man, I was working at Twitter
Yeah.
as product leader in their platform organization. And funny enough, they asked me to build basically a data platform.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, this is, again, somebody's asked me to do this. So let me just go start a company to go do this, man, to scratch my own itch.
Yeah. What was the incumbent beforehand? Were they asking their internal team to start building these platforms for them? And there was no kind of, what was the incumbent before Meroxa?
Yeah, I mean, it was just all over the place. They had every vendor that you can think of deployed inside of their environment.
Yeah.
And really my job was to understand how to make some sense of that, to give people a platform
Yeah.
that they can interact with reliably. And so for me, basically every job I've been at has kind of been that same thing, whether it's data or developer tools, like
Yeah.
just trying to figure out how we can build platforms that allow people to innovate faster and
Yeah.
more reliably. So that's
Yeah.
kind of everywhere I've been at, man. That's been like the singular theme is, let's figure out how we can do this. And it's been a good so far.
Yeah, yeah, and I noticed like a lot of the background and experience you've had was also with educating people and getting people kind of up to speed, and whether it's certain technologies or resources. Where has that influenced or impacted how you run Meroxa today, as well as have the foundational understanding of the larger companies and how they're running their organizations?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, if you can, I always say like true genius is not necessarily if you can build something, but if you can teach somebody how to use the thing that you
Yeah,
built. And for me, I always see that as a part of my ethos and my release, because if you can teach somebody to do something,
yeah,
you help build these emotive relationships back and forth that they'll be more likely to use your product in good times or bad times, all
yeah,
that type of stuff, right? Because you've that teaching aspect is helping them reach a happy path that they want.
yeah,
And so for me, I think that that's something like that's just been part of my ethos is always account for the least informed in the room,
yeah,
to make sure that if you can make sure that they are successful, then the person that's the genius or the person that's the power user, they're going to be successful as well. So
yeah,
that's the reason why everything I've done has always been a platform or helping people get to their happy place, faster, more reliable way. Like that's literally from day one when I got into tech, that's all I've been doing.
yeah. And I was noticing your background, being that you have a product mindset. One thing I always like to ask people who come from a product background is, what are some of the best practices to communicate product vision to an engineering team? Because I think we all get into like, I want certain things here in this place, but they may not functionally work in the background, right? Or on the back end, if we're
Yeah.
getting more specific. So what is your philosophy or what are some ways that you can accurately communicate what you want in your product vision and to help your engineering team build?
Yeah. I think even how you frame the question is it differs slightly from how I
Yeah.
communicate product vision to an engineering team. It's not just the what, it's the why. All right.
Mm.
And so it's funny. I'm a student of Jocko Willink, the Extreme Ownership
Yeah.
book. And it really, I mean, I read it when it first came out. And for me, it blew my mind because it's so simple to get
Yeah.
buy-in if you tell people the why. But the other part of that, in addition to the what, so it's like, all right, well, we need to refactor the login screen. Well, okay, that's fine. And then you're going to spend a whole bunch of cycles getting there. But if you say like, look, we noticed that signups were going down and we see people dropping off
Right.
because of, we don't have the little make the password visible icon inside of the password button on sign up, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like, then they can reorient. Oh, that's easier than just, oh, we need to refactor login or something. Sorry. Like that's the difference. The other part of that too is it helps build a dialogue, two-way dialogue to understand, well, what is possible, right?
Yeah.
But if you start off with the why, in addition to the what, you'll get a more pointed, nuanced conversation versus you just throwing something over the fence and trying to let the engineer lead or tech lead kind of figure it out, right?
Yeah.
The whole point of this is a product manager. You don't have direct reports unless you're a manager of product managers, but you don't have a dedicated engineering team that you're responsible for their success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I'm not managing them on the day-to-day basis, like personally, but together we're supposed to like build this thing and give metrics and understand what success is together. So giving them more context as to the decisions that you make and why you're thinking about certain things, whether it's metrics, whether it's anecdotal information, user interviews, customer feedback, like all of that type of stuff. That's the information that they need in order to be more pointed as to how they go off and solve things.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of PMs lose that because we've been told, oh, you're the CEO of an organization, but of a particular feature, but even thinking about when CEOs are part of an organization, you have to think about all of these things in general anyway. And to get buy-in is not necessarily you dictating, do this. It's, okay, well, this person, their motivations are here. So I need to frame what I'm saying to match what their motivations are on down the line and vice versa, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah. I'm very fascinated about platform and kind of the ecosystem around platform, especially around like customer retention. But before we go into your questions around that, describe Meroxa and what it allows your customers to do.
Yeah. Meroxa is a code first platform that allows engineers to solve problems in real-time data. And what I mean by that is you can use regular code to ingest data from any source, transform it or process it however it is that you want to, and then orchestrate that out to many different destinations as you need it, all from just regular code. And so it's different from the rest of the industry where it's like, okay, my engineer has to go off and build this one-off thing, or I'm using a combination of 8 to 10 different like UIs or SaaS platforms to get this one result, right? And so for us, it's just kind of like, let's simplify all of that because you shouldn't have to build the world that you want to live in order to operate in that world every single time.
Yeah.
Our whole thing is like, look, we'll make your infrastructure. We'll basically, you download the Meroxa platform and you download the Meroxa SDK. We turn your infrastructure into this like repeatable environment that you can bring in real-time data to solve problems with.
Yeah.
And like, that's really the biggest difference between us and everybody else is out there in the market. Code first really, really reduces the amount of complexity that you have. And it really, and the need for data specific expertise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that is really, I think it's something that's really, really useful and novel to this part of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard time and time again from founders and data is just king in regards to what we're able to track, but also what we're allowed and how we're allowed to interpret it. And then the conclusions we can come off of that. But in creating a platform I run a two-sided marketplace. So I'm not the most familiar. I use platforms, but I've never built one. It seems like there's a lot of platforms out there and there's a lot of value around retaining customers and keeping them engaged and using the platform versus going in another direction. How do you go about thinking about building it? And what are the complexities around keeping people engaged onto the platform? What are you implementing for other founders out there who are building platforms, whether similar or different? How do you go through that process and keeping people engaged with it and building around your customers and getting all the feedback, but having them return?
Yeah, I mean, that's a science, man. But it's really, that's the hard part.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like I wish I can give you some cookie cutter thing, but what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if I were to try to generalize what to do, is always listen to folks.
Yeah.
And give them what they want.
Yeah.
All right. Give them what they need, give them what they want, and try to build that relationship so that you can try to derive more value. Yeah. I mean, there's all these books that tell you like different frameworks to get there, but at the end of the day, it's just like, Julian, we rapping right now. I can listen to you and hear things that you want, listen to you and hear things that you need.
Yeah.
And like the product should reflect that.
Right.
And if it doesn't today, you have enough confidence in me that we'll get there at some point.
Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
that's really the simplest way that I can think of it is have a hypothesis about who's feeling the pain the most, talk to them, figure out how big of a pain that is, try to figure out like what the impact of that problem is to them today. And if you solved it for them, what would that look like? What would that impact look like? If you can do that, that's everybody.
Yeah.
Like everybody got problems. Man.
Yeah.
So you can, and just trying to make sure that your product fits their needs as far as resourcing, as far as budget, as far as time. Like that's the variables. Right. But if you can get step one is to understand, identifying that, hey, my product could potentially help you solve these things and get you to your happy place. That's most of the battle.
Yeah. Yeah. But thinking about having a kind of a co-founder relationship, and there's so many founders out there that are not just solo founders anymore, but team up with someone else who, whether it complements them or picks up kind of the slack in terms of skill sets that they're better at in having this whole relationship. And I'm curious to you and any advice that you'd give other founders kind of going through this cohesive relationship with the co-founder, and what are some ways that you two kind of set expectations for each other and also relay that to the team? Because I think it's not spoken enough about how much that is influential in actual building good product and a good customer base is those relationships. How do you navigate that?
I think for me, I've been blessed this time around. My co-founder, Ali Meaty, is just absolutely amazing. We had very transparent talks around expectations of the company, his own personal ambitions, like all types of stuff. And that came from me being him in other previous startups and not feeling like I had these conversations earlier and weren't supported enough. And so for me, I mean, I'll just give you a simple one. One of the conversations that we had was around, well, what type of CTO do you want to be? Do you want to be the IC architect CTO, or do you want to be the like people manager CTO? Not a lot of people just kind of understand what the difference is. But to me, because I've been in that scenario where it's like, yo, I signed up to be the IC architect, but now you want me to manage the careers of the, like, yo, that's not what I signed up for. Vice versa. So for me, it is really about, again, just having a real direct and transparent conversation with somebody based off of those experiences. I feel like a lot of times, especially CEO founders, I always say, I have a saying that's like, everybody wants to be a founder, but nobody wants to be a CEO. And what I mean by that is everybody wants to start something, right? But to continue it, you got to be a CEO, make the hard decisions, ask the hard questions, pay attention, repeat yourself a million times, like the same thing. It's just like you have to do all of these things all the time. And the kicker is the thing that you might be the best in the world at, you probably only doing that 10 to 15% of your time. Right. Yeah. I'm probably one of the world's best technical product managers, but I don't really get to do that because I'm doing all types of other stuff. So for me is really one of those things where you have to be real with yourself, be real with your co-founder, and then just like have these great conversations back and forth, even before you submitting code into a repo and like all this other stuff. It's like, let's pre-mortem and plot out what our journey is going to look like a couple years down the line, 5 years down the line. Like, how do we want this thing to grow and evolve? And as I'm talking, I'm realizing that sometimes you need experience to understand that. Sure. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, you have to be humble enough to understand there's things that you don't know, and to go out and seek people that have done it before to help give you that guidance. And I think that's something that's super important as a founder, is just humility. And even in founder relationships, when I have a co-founder, it's just humility. There's some things that he's great at that I would just like, yo, bro, show me the way, and vice versa. All right. And like, that's how it should be. You should really have a good self-assessment as to where your strengths are and weaknesses are, and try to find that in the person that's going to be sitting next to you alongside of this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I was extremely impressed about is when I was looking at your website and about the team you've built at the current company, and it is the diversity. And I hate the word diversity. I think the better word is like representation of the real world. And how are you able to hire people that represent what we see in the real world and go through? It's funny that we talk about it so often. It's talked about, and especially in tech, right? Diversity. Nobody really knows the mechanics behind hiring people that represent either yourself or somebody else or actual people in the world. What have you been able to do to not only attract the right talent, but also to bring them in and align people within the right culture and hire a team that's representative of the real world?
I mean, it's not hard, man. It's just intentionality.
Yeah.
Right. We said earlier on, yo, we want our company to look like the rest of America. We
Yeah.
put in hard numbers as to what we want it to look like.
Yeah.
And we just went out and did it.
Yeah.
I would love to say, oh man, it was this secret thing or this, that. But at the end of the day, I think people make it harder than what it can be.
Yeah.
Look, man, if I got my OKRs and goals around sales and I miss a quarter, what's going to happen? Here's the role, this, that, and the third. None of that has ever really been in place for diversity and inclusion and all that.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, let's figure out how to do that. Let's
Yeah.
be intentional about it. My success as the CEO, our success as a company is dependent on this thing. So let's put hard numbers behind it.
Yeah.
I think like if more people did that and realize that, yo, you're not going to sacrifice quality. You're not going to lower the bar. There's all this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. I mean, to me, it just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And there's things that I could talk about that we did, but it's like, look, man, I'm a Black CEO, right? Black male CEO. I've been you talked about a lot of the companies I've been at, like we all shared this like death by 1,000 cuts for the organization. So I can speak to that when I'm talking to any candidate.
Yeah.
Like, yo, I know you get underappreciated. I know this. How do I know this? Because I've been through it.
Right.
Don't let the CEO title fool you. But because I know this is how we've designed the organization.
Yeah.
I've had so many people cry on the interview because they just feel like they got seen.
Yeah.
Right? People just want to be acknowledged that they're like, yo, we aren't colorblind. Like if I'm a woman, there's certain things that you need to take account for. If I'm Latinx, there's certain things that you need to take account of.
Yeah.
If I'm Black, there's certain things I need to take account of, right?
Yeah.
Like understanding that because I come from that makes it easier for me to pitch the type of culture that we've built and bringing people into. And that's the other thing, right? Like if you think about all these DEI initiatives and all that, it's always focused on recruiting, but nothing on like retention and advancement. So yeah, I get you in the door, but if that door, I get you and I'm bringing you into a swamp already, like you go trade out, right? Like you're not going to be retained very long.
Yeah.
Or if you are retained very long, are you still a rank and file, just regular engineer? Or have you graduated every couple of years to senior staff and like all that type of stuff, right? Like those are the things that you need to be on the lookout for.
Yeah.
But again, because I've been on that side, like I'm already attuned to that problem. So when I go out to recruit folks, I'm already like miles ahead of the game for other people.
Sure.
Because I just know what their experience is going to be like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you marry that with the intentionality, you get a very diverse population.
Yeah.
You get a very diverse workforce.
Yeah. I love the sentiment you said about being seen. And also one thing you mentioned about, it's almost like when you evaluate your employees and how you kind of really take into account the amount of work that they do. And it's one thing to be a really good, strong culture fit, but it's also that accountability and responsibility. And then the recognition, which it's underdone, I think, in a lot of ways is recognizing employees consistently and creating that cultural system that allows them to see progress. And I think that kind of influences a lot of that retention and the lean pieces.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, even one of the things that we do on onboarding is like we send out a survey beyond the t-shirt size, shoe size, those types of things. We ask questions. How do you like to be praised? When you're in conflict, what's the way that the communication medium that you want to have most? Email, Slack, text, whatever, video call, whatever it is, right? Like we ask very, very pointed questions because not everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you shouldn't be the same. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got kids or you're part of a team, like I play sports, some people respond to yelling. Some people respond to like, you need a hand on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's me as a leader is nuance between leadership and management. Management is more like I'm just trying to get you through to this task. Leaders is they see you, they want to get the best out of you.
Yeah.
And, that's really what we try to breed as far as the culture. So that way we can see everybody and we try to make sure that I always say like your Meroxa stay is enjoyable, your Meroxa
Yeah.
journey is enjoyable, but like that's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It breathes so much success out of pretty much all the founders I've chatted with. The way your team feels and how they're motivated has a direct relationship to the success of your company and the product and the vision and the relationships with customers. It's so impactful. And as you said before, you spend a lot of time doing that kind of stuff versus the things that you feel like you're naturally just good at or more equipped to do. And it's a huge part of the learning curve. But back to Meroxa, we'd love to learn and share with the audience a little bit more about the traction you've seen. What's been exciting about the recent traction you've had and what are you excited about in the near future as the year starts to roll out?
I think for me, the traction that we've had in the government space has been really surprising because when we got into this, people have told us like, yo, it's just super hard to sell to the government and don't waste your time. But honestly, they've been our easiest and best customer.
Really? Why is that?
And I think because our message of save time, save resource, save money has really resonated. And that's what we should be doing as a democratic government anyway, right? That relies on taxable revenue, good taxable base to run. And so it's easy to get started and we help eliminate a lot of waste.
Yeah.
I think that's really been what's pretty cool. And I think the other part of it is just seeing the impact, the immediate impact as to like, what our platform does to help save lives and preserve democracy and things like that, man. I mean, it's been super enriching. If we can get something down from 24 hours to 20 minutes, like you're literally saving lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, that's the thing that people just don't understand about some of the work that these folks do. And it's like, they're unheralded and get unseen, but it's like, man, that's been the most rewarding and enriching part so far that we've had.
Yeah.
And the crazy part was, like, I wasn't super patriotic and all that type of thing. But as you get involved in this stuff and you see the people that are behind all of this and really risking their lives and their livelihood and their families, even their mental stability to go out and preserve this thing that we hold true to be democracy. Like, man, you just can't help but get riled up and like, I'm going to do the best that I can every day. Make sure that these folks have what they need to help save us.
Yeah.
And like, that's been the thing that's been the coolest and most enriching and rewarding part so far.
Yeah. How many people do you have using the platform and what do you expected for the outcomes of this year?
Yeah. I mean, we got a bunch of people use it. We usually don't give out real numbers like that. I mean, I think like our thing is making sure that more enterprises can use us because the data streaming aspect of this is starting to become more commonplace and inside of just the general tech lexicon, right? Like people are starting to realize like, real-time data is something that we need to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. And so you'll see us taking more and more, more and more positions in that space.
Yeah, that's exciting to hear about the relationships you're building, what the technology is impacting in terms of who it's impacting and how it's decreasing the amount of time and giving people and allowing them to have the tools. I think is extremely important. And I think it's in the right direction. But in regards to kind of taking a step back, what are some of the biggest challenges that Meroxa faces today?
I mean, really, there's no shortage of people inside of this data space, man. Everybody got the same marketing messages. Everybody got the same graph where it's like a whole bunch of sources, their logo in between it and a whole bunch of destinations, right? Like everybody says the same thing. And it's kind of like when you walk into a bank, it's like, would a real VP please stand up? It's like everybody's a vice president until the real vice president shows up. And so it's a lot of noise.
Right.
It's a lot of, and the other thing too about being a platform is that engineers themselves they got ego. And so everybody knows that they need a platform as a service, but they just want to be the ones to build it. The crazy thing about that is like, you can build it, but you also got to maintain and operate this thing. And that cost is a lot more than what you think.
Right.
And that's really the hardest part where people just don't understand switching costs. They don't understand operating. Like total cost of ownership, that type of thing. And so we fight and then being an end-to-end platform, right, where we can do transformations and then data orchestration. There's a whole bunch of just like single task startups that are within that space, right?
Yeah.
And so they might be better at us at one thing, but like end to end, they're not really the best. So we have to go into organization and say, man, you got this for your data ingest, but you're also spending this on stream processing or data transformation. You're also spending this money on data orchestration and data quality. And it's like, we can do all of that for you. And they're like, well, switching costs. And it's like, not really. That's not really how our platform is designed. Like we can do better on that. So it's just like for us, the competitive landscape is so vast because we are an end-to-end platform that sometimes we get lost in the weeds, but that's really what messaging and positioning is for us. And us continuing to show people like, this is how you can leverage us to get to your happy path sooner and more reliably and cheaper.
Yeah. Is a lot of the way you differentiate, is that through education? Is it through conversations? Is it doing good work? All the above?
All the above.
Yeah,
man. You got to turn the people that you do the work for into your evangelists, right? Like they're selling on your behalf and helping others build these emotive relationships with your company and your platform. That's really what it is.
Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for Meroxa?
I mean, look, man, there's never been I don't think yet to this day has been a public enterprise company that's had two technical Black founders, right? There's been people later on, there's been people around the enterprise software space, but like nobody that started something that took it to that.
Yeah.
So really that's when we started the company, that's really what our goal was.
Yeah. I love that. I always like the next portion. I call it my founder FAQs. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions and we'd love to hear your answers. So first question is, I always love to ask this. What's the hardest part about your job?
Oh man. Hardest part about my job is balancing everything.
Yeah.
Infinite number of things that you can do in a given day. There's a smaller subset of things that you should do, and then even a smaller subset of things that you need to do.
Yeah.
And just balancing all of that, man, is super hard.
Yeah. If you were to wave a magic wand, what's one thing that you wish your company could have today versus wait for it or not have it? What's one thing that you'd wish for?
Oh man, I want to be big in Japan.
Yeah.
Like everybody, right? but not seriously, man. Like, everybody at this point in time is just more customers, right? Like more people going through the door.
Yeah.
But look, man, at the end of the day, like that's the thing that we have to create. So that demand and that hunger and that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Knowing that you've gone through a round of fundraising, I think maybe a couple rounds of fundraising, what advice did you give another founder, maybe with similar background or experience or working on a similar technology? What advice would you give them to having those conversations, pitching their product and actually procuring the right investors? Because you can partner up with I don't want to say the wrong people, but those who don't share maybe the exact vision and expectation and timeline for your product that you feel would lead to its success.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I would say number one, especially at a pre-seed stage, founder market fit is 100% the way that you're gonna raise the money that you need. So what I mean by that is, do you have a history of expertise and excellence and results in the thing that you're trying to start? Like, I've been at developer tool company since 2003.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So me doing another developer tools company, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. Right. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that if it's not you, you have somebody on your staff that can help de-risk that investment via founder market fit. Right. Yeah. It's not just great enough to have a talented engineer as a CTO. Are they the engineer inside of that vertical or niche that you're trying to build the company in?
Yeah.
That's a good signal. The other thing too is I would say is investor market fit. Like we always try to go after the big brand names, but the earliest of stages, you want people that have invested in your particular industry or niche, but also you want to find out if what's their follow-on rate, right? Like for additional capital, how many of their existing investments go on to raise subsequent rounds of funding.
Yeah.
And so you want to be smarter as a founder and going on raising. And I think for me, that's always worked, right? Like I don't think I've ever had to wait more than raising pre-seed or seed, probably like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
To get the amounts that I want based off of that formula.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant. I love that. If you weren't working on Meroxa, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't working on Meroxa, what would I be doing? Probably something in music or travel.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but like I make music, like to travel, that type of thing. Other thing too, man, I think a lot of it is I would probably either have my own fund and more in like a private equity sense and like, or even like a venture studio where a lot of the ideas or opportunities that come our way, like putting capital in them, building them up, and then being able to exit to something else, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that that's something I would probably do as well.
Yeah, I love that. I would like to ask this next question, one for selfish research purposes, but also for my audience. Whether it's early in your career or now, what books or people have influenced you the most?
I had Art of War, The Peter Principle, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, Think and Grow Rich. Obviously, I said Extreme Ownership before.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think what else. I know I'm missing something else, but like those are the ones that just off the top of my, The First 90 Days.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, man, it's just off the top of my head. Those are the ones that stick. I know I'm missing some, but yeah, for me, it's really about like how to be successful in large bureaucratic organizations.
Yeah.
Also to venture deals as well, because like as being a venture and getting VC capital, it's like a whole new language, right? And like just understanding how to do that. Yeah, I think those are the books.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I know we're close to the end of the episode, DeVaris, and I've been such a pleasure to learn about your background, your experience, and where you're taking the company and what you're focused on. It's always exciting and impressive to listen to new founders and get different gems of knowledge. I've learned quite a few things during this call, especially when, that founder market fit thing was exceptional. I think that's easy and simple, and also about diverse and exceptional talent and doing so in a way that is very not only honest, but also focuses on retention and how you're focusing on that. But last little bit, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would have liked for me to ask or that you would have liked to answer?
Oh man, my SoundCloud link down.
I'll get that from you offline. I'm gonna get that from you offline.
No, man, I'm just playing. Yeah, no, man. I mean, I think it was a good conversation. I mean, I think I would ask was just more like a commercial. Like, where can we find you? Meroxa.com.
That was the last question. That's where can we find you? Where can we get your plugs? What's your website? What's your LinkedIn? Where can we not only support you and your mission as a founder, but also the company? And if we're a customer, start to use the platform.
Yeah, customersmeroxa.com. That's the easiest way. I'm on LinkedIn. DeVaris P. Brown is my LinkedIn username. Twitter, DeVaris P. Brown. Keep it a pretty standard there. So yeah.
Love that. DeVaris, it was such a pleasure chatting with you. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thank you again for being on the show today.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Of course.